Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to class this afternoon. Thanks for joining me, whether you're joining me live here during the live stream or you are watching the recording a little bit later on. Just thank you for joining. Thank you for coming by. And welcome to Web 215 Advanced Markup and Scripting. In this course, we're going to be having a look at some of the more advanced topics that extend kind of beyond what we covered in Web 215 or Web 115. Blech. We're going to be looking at some advanced topics that are going to be going beyond what we kind of covered in Web 115 in the spring. So these are all some more advanced concepts. We're getting deeper into CSS, way deeper into JavaScript. I refer to this as basically my JavaScript course. And then I will build off your foundation from what you learned in Web 115. So today's live class is going to be just a little bit shorter. It's going to be a lot shorter, actually, than we'll probably normally have. Just because all I want to do today is go into a little more depth on the module, the Begin Here module material. Just so we're all clear on the expectations of what I'm looking for, what you should be doing, all of that kind of fun stuff. So that's our goal for today. Let me go ahead and switch this over to our full screen view so we can see this here nice and big like. And talk about the things that we're going to talk about. Now, just as a reminder, I do these on YouTube. One, because it's a platform that everybody's pretty much accustomed to. Right? You know, the statistics say that roughly 80% of people, when they're going to go online to learn something new, they're going to go to YouTube. So I like to go ahead and do my things on YouTube where I can go ahead and meet you all where you're at. Have these new things that we're learning and put them right on YouTube. And also, it's a much less, or I guess I could say it's a much more casual sort of environment than Zoom or Teams. Right? In these platforms, you have to kind of make sure your camera's off if you don't want to be seen. Or you want to make sure your microphone's muted and all that kind of fun stuff. Here with YouTube, you don't have to worry about that, which is great. If you have a question or you know a comment or anything, you can just put it in the chat. I am monitoring the chat, so I will see it, and it might take me a few seconds, but I'll get there. So what I'd like to do today is just talk a little bit more about the Begin Here module. That's our first module that we have due. That's coming up due this Thursday. So I'm just going to click on the Begin Here module here. The first thing to point out to you all is the orientation video. I record these orientation videos special every semester, so they have more updated information in them. So this is an orientation video that I created for this semester with all the new stuff in it. Again, as you are navigating around, you can navigate around by directly clicking the links in the table of contents, clicking the arrows at the top of the table of contents, or over here on the right portion of the screen to navigate through the different items in a module. That way you only have one thing on your screen at a time. You only have one thing to worry about at a time. So you can focus on reading or watching a specific thing and then moving on to the next one. The EVA, the Enrollment Verification Activity. You all should be very accustomed to this by now. We need this completed right away. Midnight, September 6th is the latest it can be completed. If you don't get it done by then, or you, for some reason, select no in the quiz, you will be withdrawn from the course. So you want to make sure you do this and select yes as soon as possible if you'd like to stay in this course and finish out this semester. The getting started here is just information for you to tell you more about how you can access these different things. Find my contact information, get tutoring, course communication, all this kind of stuff. You want to make sure that you do that. Or read through this if you need to. Most of you should be old pros at this kind of thing by now, so you probably don't need any further information on any of this stuff, right? Like, this is, probably everybody's second fall semester at least, right? You all have a lot of experience dealing with this stuff, so there is that. Here's our syllabus here. We'll go over this just a little bit. It says that this course covers the advanced programming skills required to design internet applications and interactive web content. Emphasis is placed on the programming techniques required to develop internet applications, interactive web content, frameworks, and using libraries. Upon completion, students should be able to design, code, debug, and document internet-based programming solutions to various real-world problems. And that's a lot of words, basically just to say JavaScript. Right, we are using some different frameworks and libraries throughout the semester. Our library is what we're doing in Module 10 with P5.js. So you can see that. We'll kind of do a little introduction to game development in that module as well. You'll see that we're using, object notation frameworks, various other APIs and such in JavaScript throughout the semester. We will be examining as we go throughout. And believe it or not, because I kind of had trouble believing it. In fact, that might just be a typo. Because I believe there are. Although that could be it. I don't remember. I might have made a mistake there. I think there should be a prereq for this course, which would be Web 115, but maybe not. It's been a few weeks since I've made this syllabus, so I don't really remember what it said on the state website. So maybe it's weird. But either way, everybody here's met the requirements, so we're all good. At the bare minimum, you need the skills from the previous class to be able to be successful in this class. A lot of this is boilerplate for just you to be able to read through when you get the opportunity. Student learning outcomes, these are the things that you should be able to know and do by the end of the semester. 1, design internet applications / interactive web content. Code internet applications / interactive web content. Debug internet applications / interactive web content. And document internet applications / interactive web content. So this course is heavily project-based. Right? There aren't any quizzes in this course. There aren't any discussion boards in this course. There is just a bigger project per module. And so these projects are going to prove to me that you can do each of these things by the end of the semester. We're going to do everything from building responsive websites to where they can fit whichever browser we're working in, all the way through to making games. Module 5 is incredibly interesting because as we do an introduction to JavaScript, I'm going to ask you to make a website using only JavaScript that injects code and works with HTML and CSS just from JavaScript. So if you were to look at the page, you would see almost no markup outside of a skeleton and a link to a JavaScript file. You'll be able to do that by the time we get to that module. It'll be easy for you. Hopefully, fingers crossed. No problem at all. Your labs, since it's all project-based, that's 65%. Your final project, that's 30%. And just, being here every week, turning in things on time, doing what you're supposed to do, get you 5%. Pretty nice. Easy grading. Now we have our course schedule here. These are when modules will be assigned and when they are due. You see, by and large, we have 1 week modules. When we talk about responsive design, we're going to take 2 weeks for that. But most of the things that we're going to do within 1 week's time here, as we can kind of see here. This is also in the Begin Here module, so if you have questions about when anything's due, it'll be there. I'm looking at adding some due dates in some different places as well. You know, the reason why I like to have them kind of compartmentalized is just because, you know, if something changes during the semester and we have to get rid of a module or we have to shift a module or something like that, the more places I have a due date, the more places I have to change it. And if I miss one of those places, it could be confusing, right? So we're looking at some other stuff to do here to implement that, to try to make these due dates a little more clear to you all. But they're all right here, and they're in the pacing guide here as well. So, you know, it's just a quick look, right? And one of the things you might want to do is just kind of print that out or take a picture of it or write it all down just so you can have it on your desk there as well. Just something to think about. Here is my information if you need to get in touch with me. I think you all know how to do it already. There's my email address. There's my office phone. There is my office location. You can also see my student hours here. That's 10:30 to 11:30 a.m. on Monday through Wednesday. And then Thursday is going to be our study hall. And this is something that I'm trying a little bit differently this semester. Instead of having, you know, specific live classes during the week for you all to maybe come in and sit in on, I decided to make basically all day Thursday after my AM class, so 10:30 onward, be this kind of study hall. That's when all of your assignments are due as well. So I figured, you know, having it on Thursday would probably be a good opportunity to do it. I will be in Paxoy room 3200. If you've ever been here on campus, that's the big classroom where I usually have my in-person classes. You are welcome to come in, come see me, get individual help, ask questions for this or any other class that you might have with me this semester, or really any other class that I might be able to help you with. I'd be willing to help you. And so we're going to try that on Thursday this semester. We might, you know, in the spring, we might change and do something else. You know, it's all highly dependent on how you guys like this and different things that might happen and all that kind of fun stuff. So we will, we'll just check that out and we'll play with it by, you know, as we go along. My preferred contact method is email. It's easy to get in touch with me through email or Teams, because these are the things that I have on me basically all the time. You can send me an email, you can send me a Teams message, really at any time, and I'll see it pretty quickly. If you've never used Teams before, this is kind of a little primer here showing you how to use Teams. I'll also be monitoring Teams during those study hall sessions that I mentioned, right? So if you want to ask a question through Teams or, you know, virtually attend the study hall session, you're welcome to do that as well. That is another option. This is just some information here about some frequently asked questions. You know, things that I get asked a lot that people might want to know. For example, when will I receive a grade? It's getting late in the day. So assignments are graded within 7 days of the assignment due date. Right? Not saying anybody would, but that's just to kind of maintain some academic integrity. Right? Make sure everybody's on the up and up. If I kind of graded things as they came in, then you could turn it in way early. I'd grade it. You'd get it back. You'd get my feedback. And you could share that information with others in the class. I don't think anybody here in here would do that. And really, with this class being all project based, it'd be kind of difficult for you all to do that anyway. But it is, it's something that's kind of happened before, and so that's why we have that. I also have my deadline policy here. My due dates are my deadlines, hard stop, unless you communicate with me otherwise, right? It's kind of just like it would be if you had a job, right? Your boss gives you a task to complete by a certain day. If that day comes and goes and that task isn't complete, you're probably going to wind up in a bit of trouble. However, if you go to your boss before that due date and you say, excuse me, we've been working hard on this. We ran into this issue and this issue. And so we were wondering if we could get an extension. I am really amicable about extensions. All you got to do is ask. Right? I'm really easy to work with. Just ask me before the due date if you can have an extension and I can give you one. Just one of the things to remember about extensions is that, the rest of the class kind of keeps going. So if you get too far behind, those things can kind of stack up and get overwhelming. So we want to try to make sure that we're getting on these projects, especially the projects that we're working on here in this course, as early as possible, just because some of them especially could take a lot of time for you to work on. Here's that pacing guide again. These are all the due dates here again. It shows you when all the modules will be assigned and when all the modules will be due. Take a screenshot, take a picture, write this down, print this out, save this somewhere. Right, I'm going to try to get this in some other places as well, just so you all can remember all of this. We can see right now we have the due dates for the remainder of the semester here. And so we know one of the big things to note here is that your final projects will be due by noon on December the 12th. We will have at least one study hall session during that time if you want to come in and work on your final project and ask questions during that time as well. The live online class, we won't spend much time on that because that's what this is right now. Right? Every Monday at 3 o'clock we'll have a live online class. After October the 12th, we might change the time during which this live online class happens. We might not. I will let you know if we do. I'm teaching an 8-week class right now, and it's every single morning. Monday through Thursday for 2 hours a morning, so it basically just kills my morning. So for right now, I have to kind of get these classes in where I can get them in, which means kind of backing some up almost back to back in the afternoons, right? Which that is something to point out here is that since I have the databases class going on at 1 o'clock and this class going on at 3 o'clock, you might receive the link for this one 10 to 15 minutes late, depending on if that other live class goes over a little bit, which is why I'm considering moving this class and the Tuesday late class, which is the CTI 110, which none of you all should be in, to earlier in the day when the 8-week class is over. Because I'll have those mornings freed up at that point. We can have a little bit more breathing room, a little bit more time that we can kind of, make sure that everybody gets an adequately scheduled, planned class. Some other important information here, just kind of laid out here: communication policy, etiquette policies, those sort of things. Just something to read over in your spare time. You all know all this already. How to submit assignments in Blackboard if you have any questions about that. Just a little bit of information about succeeding in online courses. So we have this element here that shows you some information about how to, work in online courses if you're not accustomed to them. One of the things I like is this online readiness quiz that I've put here, areyouonlineready.com. I built this to be a readiness assessment quiz, right? So you fill it out, you answer. There's a 20-question quiz in here. Answer all those questions, and it'll give you some suggestions about some things to do that you can improve your readiness as an online student. It is worth your time if you've never done something like this before, or you're really unsure of what being a good online student is kind of about. You know, it's not a requirement by any means, but it is a good thing to do. Just some information about discussion board policies. Again, since all of our modules are project-based, we only have one discussion board in the entire course, and that is the introduction discussion, right? Just because you're in an online class doesn't mean you get away from introducing yourself. So you want to make sure you complete this and the orientation quiz. So 3 things that I need completed by ideally the end of this module, which is September 1st, right? Thursday. And that's the EVA, your introduction discussion, and your orientation quiz. Due Thursday. One of the things I would also talk about during this sort of begin here opening session usually would be the final project. And I'm going to mention the final project here, but we won't spend much time talking about it. Because your final project is to build a game. And so you won't really know how to do that until we get to the end of the course in December. But by the time you get to that point, you'll be able to take care of everything that we have here. Right? It basically just goes through each and every portion that we've been working with the class and applying it to a website that houses a game that you will have created. And last fall, I got some really cool games turned in from some of my students, right? Got some really cool stuff that was developed. And I'm hoping for the same this fall. Really, really neat. So there is that. As we wrap up here, while I'm kind of just wrapping up, if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat for me right now if you're here with me live. If you're watching the recording later on, feel free to email or Teams message me with questions. I think this course in general is pretty straightforward. I tried to do, tried to make it as straightforward as possible, since some of the concepts that we're talking about are pretty big concepts that, take a bit of effort to wrap your head around. But while you're thinking of whether or not you have any questions, I'm just going to say that next Monday is the Labor Day holiday. So, the very second live class, we won't have one. I will have a video instead. The first module is your HTML, CSS refresh bootcamp. So for all of you, that should be a cakewalk, so you shouldn't really need much anyway. But I will kind of walk through. I'll post a video kind of walking through setting up VS Code, which is one of the interesting things too, is that I don't think I have VS Code fully set up on my new machine here. I might have already set it up for the kind of projects we do. But we can go through that again. I can install the open source VS Code equivalent that's out there and go through it with that as well. What have you. But we'll go over how to set up VS Code, making a basic website, saving files, all that sort of fun stuff, so we can have something that we can submit. One of the things that I like to say about these second year fall courses, on your first whole year there, last year you were all kind of riding with training wheels, right? Like when we were doing CTI 110 and Web 115, we were riding with training wheels, and now we're going to take our training wheels off, and, get on our big kid bikes and ride around the neighborhood that way. So we should have a lot of fun this semester, working this stuff out, learning some new things, expanding our knowledge. And yeah, that's about all I have. So just looking at the chat, doesn't look like we have any questions right now, but I will turn on the music again for a couple minutes and just let it play, and just in case anybody thinks of a question here. Once again, if you are watching the recording of this and you come up with a question, please email it to me. Please Teams message it to me, and I will answer you straight away. But that's all that I have for you for today. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Ooh, question. Will we be turning in our assignments on GitHub? You can. You can turn in your assignments on GitHub. However, I did not make it a requirement here to turn in your assignments on GitHub. You'll just be turning in your files. If you are able to turn in things on GitHub, that would be great. I know some people have had Web 140 already. Some people have not. So you can have your option of turning in your files to me that way if you'd like, but it's not a requirement. Cool? All right, we'll put on the... Yep, sure thing. Thank you for asking. Put on the music for a couple minutes just in case there are any other questions. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.